Big Drive Energy BMW Championship week. It's a home game. It's here in Colorado. We're here in studio. We're going to give you the full preview. The weather report with Mitchell's Colorado accent should be an easy one. Who we think is going to come out on top, and the final 30 players heading to Eastlake next week for the Tour Championship. And it's all coming up right now, along with Country Club Snob being outed and Fairway or Fore. All right, let's tee it up. Big Drive Energy Live, BMW Championship week. We went out there yesterday, checked it out. We're going to be out there again tomorrow. I'll be out there throughout the weekend. It's a great week to have golf back in the state of Colorado. I know everyone around here is excited. The fans are excited. They've sold out multiple days. But first, how's your week been? How's your weekend? I know we did our Sunday night, late night pod. It was kind of fun and different, but how's your last couple days been? You're just hanging at the house, just being in Colorado.
Yeah, it's been good, man. I mean, I babysat your son, so let me ask you, how was Tyler Childers in Boulder? Because me and Sawdogs just chilled, big chilling. The kid has got a motor like nobody's business. He just keeps going. He's the Energizer Bunny. So eventually I just had to let him do his own thing, but I had a good time. Waking up early with a kid is wild. Like, just knowing that you're responsible for another human being is pretty insane. Not something that I'm used to by any means. I'm used to worrying about myself, and that's a handful if you don't know me. So worrying about another human being is pretty wild. Like, when I'm at the house with you and Kylie, I can like play with Sawyer, but if something goes down, it's not my problem. But when you know it's your problem, then it's like a totally different scenario. You know what I mean? You're kind of on edge. So it went well, but how was Boulder? I heard you got a little toasted. I'm not surprised, but
yeah, when you have a night and you go out as a parent and your kid's safe with his uncle, at home, and he's not with you. I assume that he's safe. We lit it up a little bit. It was a great concert. Big Tyler Childers fan, but the first time I went to his concert at Red Rocks, he didn't play the hits.
Well, I was also there with you.
Oh, were you?
Well, we did get pretty tuned up for that one.
But he played a ton of the songs that I didn't know or had never heard, so that's always kind of a big letdown when you know their music. Like, if you go to a concert where you don't really know the music, you just kind of jam out, you're hearing new things, you're like, oh, this is cool. But when you go to a concert of someone, you expect to hear X amount of songs that you know if you listen to them prior, and didn't hear any of his songs at Red Rocks, but this past weekend in Boulder, he definitely played some of his hits. And so that was great when you hear the first tune coming out and you're like, oh, I know this is going to be this song. This is going to be great. And that made it a great concert. I've, of course, had quite a few Coors Lights that night. Great time. And concerts at venues that normally are for football or outdoor sports are just elite. Yeah. Like, there's usually a great view. I mean, nothing compares to Red Rocks, and I'll always say that, but
Folsom's pretty damn good.
It's like Tiger Woods in his prime. Like, you compare all the other venues based on Red Rocks being the top.
Folsom's like Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, exactly. Folsom is the Scotty Scheffler of, like, it's really great. It'll never compare to Red Rocks, but nothing in the world does, and that's why we're so lucky to have it so close to us and be able to have attended 20, 30 plus shows there. But Folsom Field was an incredible venue.
Let me ask you this. Like, so have you ever heard of like Fish or you've heard of Grateful Dead for sure?
Yeah, those are like
they're like
jam bands.
They just like don't play. Well, I guess Grateful Dead does play songs.
Are you talking about Dead & Co., which is like a Grateful Dead?
Well, Grateful Dead / Dead & Company. But Fish, I know, just plays no, like, not really songs. They just like jam out for hours. Like, is that something that you'd be interested in, or do you want to know the song? I feel like if you did some extracurriculars, that would be helpful in enjoying just the jam. Like, but I personally would. I've never been to one, but I feel like it'd be a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, if you know the songs, it makes it more fun to jam out to. But it's also the mindset you're in. At a concert in Michigan, I went to a festival, and I saw
Back in your festival days?
String Cheese Incident, and I had never heard of them, but they basically did the same thing. They just jammed out for 2 hours, and I was in a good mood and having a good time, so I enjoyed it. But normally, I've been to a lot of EDM concerts, and those are crazy because you're seeing an artist, but they don't really have a ton of songs. Like, that genre doesn't have songs.
I was going to say, that might be why you're into you're down with the jam, because that is kind of one big jam.
Yeah, it's like,
different type of music.
They have songs that have certain sounds, but they play a set where it's never ending. And half of the songs that they mix in are random songs from other artists that you've never heard. So I think that in general, like, that's what I work out to every day. I can't work out to like song after song or choosing songs, because there's an ending, there's a slow part, that is just like constant, just hitting you.
I work out to a
tunes.
podcast.
That's fucking psychotic.
I am so like in on podcasts. It is insane. I like music probably 20% of I listen to music probably 20% of the time. I listen to podcasts probably 80% of the time.
Yeah, this kid right here listens to a podcast like at night while he's sleeping.
I don't think that's
with
that
an
crazy.
AirPod in.
Do you think that's weird, Yaya?
It's crazy sleeping with anything in your ears, not listening to a podcast. If you had it like on the radio, like just kind of playing in the background, that'd be kind of dope. But actually having like something in your ear, that's insane as hell.
I sleep with an AirPod in a lot of the time, partially because my girlfriend detests the fact that I do it. Like, but she won't let me play it out loud. So if I'm going to do it, it's got to be in my ear. Like,
the one thing when I started dating my wife is going from single to dating is I used to have Fox Sports Radio because I was just the late night radio on
so
all
it's
the
not
time.
psycho.
No, it's not psycho, but it's psycho that you just can't let go of it, and you actually have to like put an AirPod in and continue to listen to it.
Dude,
like,
basically, I don't want to try to
over.
sleep with my own thoughts. Like, when my mind starts racing, that's when I can't sleep, and I am known to sleep hard and well, and that's because I'm listening to somebody else talk about something that has nothing to do with the thoughts going on in my head.
I think a lot of the times when I'm listening to something and go to sleep, it turns into a intertwined mess of my dream. Whatever I'm listening to is like, I can hear it in my dream. I'm awake, but I'm also part of the podcast.
I just rubbed nicotine straight into my eyeball.
That's not good. I rubbed garden salsa sun chips into my eye about 30 minutes ago.
Holy shit.
We're struggling with the eyes.
Well, here's another hypothetical. Remember when we were in high school and kids would try to play with earpods in?
Oh yeah.
And they would say like no headphones. And this was back in the day of no cordless headphones. So these kids were legit walking around with their corded headphones trying to play golf. But do you feel like music helps you on the golf course? Do you not? Because obviously they're not listening to swing tips, and if they were, it wasn't really helping because no really good high school players would have their headphones in. But do you think it like helps relax you, or do you not care? Do you like silence on the golf course for like a competitive round? Not a playing with your buddies, you're playing music, you're listening, you're drinking alcohol, whatever. That's a different scenario. But if you're playing a competitive round, do you think that music or even a podcast or something would like help chill you out?
I think a certain type of music would. I am a 21 Pilots guy on the golf course. That's kind of my standard, or country. But sometimes it's usually just like it takes my mind off of actually playing golf, which is nice. Sometimes my mind is just going with the tunes and not worrying about what golf shot I'm about to fuck up next.
See, but that's honestly why I talk so much on the golf course too, because it helps me focus on something besides the golf in front of me. Like I try to focus on the golf shot for 10 to 15 seconds, but then after that I'm talking about anything else besides golf, and that I've found helps me out. But it is an interesting, podcasts just relax me. Songs are just so quick so I almost am now convincing myself that I would be in with like a jam band because the song like doesn't end. Like an hour-long song, I can get, that's something I can get behind. So, so you went to Tyler Childers, then we went out to the BMW yesterday. So,
well, real quick,
shout out my T-shirt.
Shout out BMW.
This hummingbird logo is elite.
Let's talk about. I want to talk about airport etiquette real quick because of some of the things I saw. So I was in Dallas on Monday. I just took a day trip to Dallas, flew out there in the morning, flew back at night, and it was the things I see every time I go on a flight, every time I go to the airport are a disaster. So I've written some things down here. I put some things in my notes.
So real quick, I'm not going to cut you off, but then remind me to talk about highway etiquette after you talk about.
Let's not do that.
We're definitely doing it. Go ahead with your airport etiquette.
So it started out with decent day getting into the airport. My clear actually helped me for once because there's been this weird scenario where clear actually takes longer than the normal security sometimes because there's only a couple of people with clear. They're checking your eyes. And then I've also had my ID checked, like random, quote unquote, random ID check on clear the last like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, what's the point of this? Because theoretically, if I have clear, I don't have to bring my ID to the airport. Ideally, like if they do the check, I'm screwed. But when you do your eyes and then you show your boarding pass, you should be good to go. They've checked my ID randomly like multiple times, whatever. So I get through clear, and then a guy in front of me, two guys in front of me, starts to walk through into the metal detector thing. You know, we put your hands down, I think now instead of up. It's like the new ones. Yeah, and he walks in there with his shoes on.
And you don't have TSA pre-check?
I do not have TSA pre-check, no.
Mistake.
But so then that guy walks in with his shoes. So he has to they're like, go take your shoes off. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So then the next guy comes and he's got his wallet in his pocket that's chained to his belt buckle.
Oh my God.
You know, like the old school, like slip knot type of scenario where you chain your wallet to your belt loop. He's got that in his pocket. So they start to scan him. They're like, sir, you're going to have to remove that. So I'm like, this is insanity. I'm already annoyed with all these people because it's taking me longer than it should be. And then I get on the plane, everything's fine. And I look down and I'm a window guy. It's Southwest flight, which they're still doing the choose your own seat. So I chose my own seat, got to the window just like I like it. And the last person on the plane, my spot next to me is open. Last person on the plane takes the middle seat right next to me. Ooh. Of course, huge L, but
Southwest is actually going away from non-assigned seating, which is like the end of an era because they're the only one that does it. And I honestly don't mind it at all. Like now that I've flown United a significant amount of the time, and I also have a bone to pick with United while we're on the subject. I actually had a guy really help me out today, but now that I've flown United a bunch, I cannot get on a plane and not know where I'm sitting. Like that shit freaks me out. Do you have any other airport etiquette that you would like to clear up?
Well, yeah. So I was on the plane. I get on the plane sitting in the window seat, and I look over, and I'm like, why are my legs feel like kind of cramped? My legs are a little longer anyways, but I was like, they feel cramped. So I look down, and the guy next to me has his foot over the metal into my seat area.
Oh, yeah, that's out of pocket. I've had that happen multiple times, and it is so clear, like, where your area is and where somebody else's area is. And if they are coming into your area, I mean, you've seen people, like, put their feet on, like, other people's armrests. And even, like, I think this is out of pocket when it's mostly females, but if I've never seen a dude do it. But if you have longer hair and you throw it over the back of your seat and it's like hanging over your TV or like in your shit, that is like not okay at all either. People taking their socks off on the plane, completely out of pocket.
Question on that one.
Yes. Oh, so you're a
I don't
socks
take
off.
my socks off. I don't. But I do wear Crocs
Okay.
to the airport. No socks. Almost never socks on Crocs. That's
So-
weird. That shit's... Don't do that.
I do actually wear socks on Crocs.
Dude,
Unless
he
it's
wears
snowing.
socks with slippers. He's a fucking psychopath.
See, that's weird. You don't
Yeah.
do that. I'd rather you have no socks and no shoes
100%.
than wear socks with Crocs or slides. But is it acceptable to take off your Crocs or your slippers if that's what you have on at the airport?
I think if you wear Crocs because they're ventilated, then your feet are not just sitting in a hot box. If you're wearing like full on like slippers with no socks and then you pop them off, those things are going to be ripe. Your feet are not going to smell good. So that is out of pocket. But no, if you're wearing Crocs and no socks, but then it brings me to another point. Do you feel comfortable going through security sockless and shoeless? Like
That's the crazy
barefooting
part.
it,
Like when you have to
raw
take
dog
your,
in security
when
with
you have to
bare
take your
feet.
fucking shoes off and you're barefooting it through the security. I always
So-
feel bad for those people. I'm like, they must have not thought this through.
They know what they're doing and they're just fucking fit for a straitjacket.
So what I do, I don't know if you've seen the little baggies you put on feet. I usually carry one of those with me.
Oh,
So
okay.
once I go through, I just put those on real quick, walk through, and then get back.
Oh,
I am
okay.
not
You
touching
slip
that.
little foot baggies on.
Yeah, foot baggies are the way to
like
go.
you're doing like a foot mask.
Yeah, basically, like
Okay.
that's the way you do that.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, that is crazy. I've worn boat shoes a few times on a flight and I don't have socks on. I'm like, wow, what a fucking mistake this was. But real quick, I want to talk about United Airlines. So I have accumulated miles. You know, you get miles when you are with an airline. So I found out, and Spencer already knows this, but I was trying to transfer some miles to my mom. They charge you $7.50 per 500 miles you transfer. So it costed me $330 to transfer my miles to my mom. I was like, this is the most asinine policy I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, I spent a lot of money to get these miles. I mean, it's 20,000 miles, not 200,000, but that would have cost me $3,300 if I would have transferred 200,000 miles. It's fucking obscene. Like, how can you charge somebody for the miles that they paid for? I can't even put it into words. So then I had this dude on the phone. He really helped me out. He got me my miles back. But then they're like, yeah, it's non-refundable, this and that. And I was like furious. I was like, I'm canceling everything. I am not that guy that gets angry at any customer service rep. And so I emailed him and I was a little curt in the email. But then when I got on the phone with this dude, he was pretty cool right off the bat. And so I was like, I'm going to be straight up with you. It was my fuck up. Like, I made the mistake. I did not read the fine print that it says you get charged to transfer miles. And I just want to reverse this whole thing. And almost an hour later, he got me my miles back, but he didn't get me the payment of $300 and some that I paid. But that is going as a flight credit in our mom's account. So she can use that. Basically, I was just putting money in her account for her to pay for her flight. So I don't care about that. It was more just the principle of me giving up miles and paying to give my miles to someone. Like, have you ever heard of a dumber thing in your life?
No, there could be like a one-time transfer fee, like $20, $30,
Yeah, 30,
whatever, something simple like that, where they're still making money off of it. But I don't understand. And also, I don't know why, I'm not sure why you didn't do this in the first place. I mean, the transfer miles thing shouldn't have worked out like it did. But theoretically, you could have just booked her flight under your miles and changed the name to her and made it her flight.
I don't think you can.
You can definitely do that. You can just change the traveler because it always asks you who the traveler is.
It also just feels like Mitch is mad that he didn't think about that sooner.
No, I honestly tried to do that and it didn't give me an option to change the traveler. Like, I would have to add her as a traveler, but then I don't know if I can. You can't book through my Mileage Plus. I can't book for her. You can't book for other people. So I could use my credit card to pay for her flight, but I can't book her flight in my account.
I don't know.
It's true.
Well,
I've looked this shit up.
unless you're booking your own flight at the same time, because I
Correct.
booked my own flight, but
I can
added someone on, but also
correct.
use mine.
If I'm not flying though, I can't add somebody else. I can't just book a flight for someone else if I'm also not traveling with them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so Mitchell was just saying how he got nicotine in his eyes. This is a chance to tell you what kind of nicotine he got in his eyes, and that is our friends over at Lucy Nicotine. Lucy is 100% pure nicotine and always tobacco-free. They have gum, they have pouches, and they have breakers. I've got the berry citrus breakers right here. And full disclosure, I learned about 3 days ago that you actually pop the breaker with your teeth. So put it in, pop the breaker.
Oh, you can actually hear that on the mic.
I love that. This is a great Lucy ad. So you pop the breaker, and then it's incredible flavor. So I wasn't all the way in on these breaker 8 milligram berry citrus until I figured out that if you pop the breaker with your tooth, it's an incredibly different taste and an incredibly different length of how long these last. If you're not a pouch guy or gal, though, Lucy Gum is available in 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams, and 6 milligrams.
See, I almost feel like, though, if you break the breaker early, that's like taking a bite right into a Tootsie Pop. You got to let it marinate and then break on its own. You got to earn that.
Well, the big thing was I wasn't...
Because it refreshes the flavor after you've had it in for 20, 30 minutes.
But I wasn't thrilled with the taste of it in general when I was starting. So now that I know to break the breaker, breaking breaker 1.9, that it starts off with just an immense amount of flavor right off the bat. So now these berry citrus 8 breakers are my absolute favorite. And I throw in a Lucy whether I'm on the golf course, whether I'm on the podcast, whatever it ends up being, I am always with a Lucy with different variety. I love the wintergreen. I love the mint. I got some mango in this last subscription. I also got some espresso in this last subscription. So let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/BDE and use promo code BDE to get 20% off of your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co. Use code BDE to get 20% off and as always, free shipping. Here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. And, Mitchell, you wouldn't have gotten the Lucy nicotine in your eyes if you had your Shady Rays on. Our friends over at Shady Rays, incredible sunglasses that won't break the bank. They have over 300,000 5-star reviews. They have durable frames, crystal clear optics, and they're the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. There's so many choices on the website to choose from. So head over to Shady Rays, look what you like. We prefer the golf prism, or not, excuse me, not prism. What is the word? I'm losing the word. Polarized. Golf.
I was about to say
polarized
Polaroid.
Green Wolf glasses. Those are our favorite. I'm wearing Shady Rays all the time on the golf course. I keep them in my car, I keep them in my backpack, and I keep them in my golf bag. And if your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, do not sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. So if you break some, not a problem. You just send them back in. They send you a new pair. Their customer service is incredible. So head over to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. I think that was the BMW Championship flag behind us.
It was.
Telling us that it's time to talk about the BMW Championship. So let's get into it.
Do we want to do when are we doing this giveaway here?
So there will be a giveaway. For those of you watching live, we have a couple things to give away. We have a flag, we have a BMW Championship hat, and we've got an insanely sick...
It's kind of hard to see with
the lighting, but it says BMWC. And we've got a insanely sick
there we go.
swag golf putter head cover with the milkshakes on it. So we're going to do the giveaway. We're going to post that later today on our Twitter, on our Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube. That's how you get in to win. But we'll do a whole post with a reel on how to get in. But make sure you're checking out our social media later on this afternoon. We'll have the full giveaway, and it runs until Sunday night.
Saturday night.
You can enter through Saturday night. Sunday on our live show, recapping the BMW, we are going to announce all the winners. So we've got a bunch of stuff to give away. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube. Go click that right now. And then following us on either Twitter or Instagram, whichever you prefer, to see the details of the giveaway. All right, should we start out with, what do you want to start? You want to start with the weather report? I think we should do a weather report on Castle Pines.
Yeah.
In your best Colorado accent, sir.
So let's just talk about this for a second. Do you think Coloradans have an accent? Like, do you feel like just my Midwestern pasty white ass is like, I feel like this is just the standard white person language.
Say mountain.
Mountain. Oh God, you fucked me up. Mountain. I don't say the T.
Neither do I, but that's the Colorado accent right there.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I also, people say Colorado if you're not from Colorado. So you say rad. You can't spell Colorado without rad. But my girlfriend, being from the Philly area and living in New Jersey, thinks that I have an accent. I don't think I do. She does. She also doesn't think she has an accent, which is just insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But we should definitely
saying water
I wonder
and
if
shit
there's
like
that. I wonder if there's a map. You know how there's always a map of everything in the United States, like who votes for who, or what this region is cheering for. Like what states don't have an accent or do have an accent. I guess it depends upon who you're looking at, how you're looking at it, and who's doing the map.
See, I would say
everybody has an accent. I feel like.
See, I would say there's only. I would say Colorado, Wyoming, like Utah, Washington, Oregon, probably Idaho,
California.
California. Well,
you said Oregon instead of Oregon
or Oregon. I can't stand when people say Oregon. I'm like, I think that's an East Coast thing. They pronounce every single syllable. How do you say caramel? Yeah.
Caramel.
You say caramel? See, I say caramel. Do you say
caramel?
Yeah. See that?
Which is
how do you say crayon?
Crayon?
You don't say crayon. You
I say crayon.
You say crayon?
Yeah, crayon.
Okay, so that is like, I feel like an East Coast thing, or maybe just a non-Colorado thing. But I don't pronounce like every single syllable of those words. But I feel like Oregon, Washington, Wyoming, Colorado, probably Arizona, but even California has an accent. They've got like that. And maybe it's more just a vibe, like, yo, what's up, dude? Obviously, that's very, very stereotypical, but
vibe and vocabulary, every state is different.
Yes, that's
actual different way of speaking. Like when I was in Dallas, it was amazing to hear y'all like 3 times in the same sentence.
And I feel like people just overdo it.
There?
Yeah, I feel like people just overdo it.
I don't think they're intentionally doing how they talk. Like I think that's just how they've talked since they were little and how they've heard people talk. And I wonder in 4 or 5 years, Bluey is a very popular kids show.
That Australian accent.
The Australian accent, how many kids learn to talk from Bluey and pick up some Australian bites?
Like shit like that. I actually heard an Australian girl say that, and I was cracking up. I'm like, you actually say no with like an R at the end. Okay, to the weather report.
All right, we are sending it over to Rick Ricken.
What about?
No, that was you last time.
Pick a local radio or pick a local news station. Chris Bianchi, isn't that
Chris Bianchi?
I'm Chris Bianchi
with Fox 31.
All right, coming at you live from Castle Pines this week. Yeah, here we go. 6,400 feet of elevation. It is going to be a little cooler than the Denver metro area. So Thursday, we were looking at a high of 82 and cloudy. We actually have a pretty nice week for these guys. It's not crazy hot. It looks like a little cloud cover. Friday, 85, partly sunny. Saturday, 85 as well, partly cloudy, mostly cloudy. And Sunday is 80 degrees. So that is pretty damn nice, I would say, when it goes, as far as weather goes for this area, because Denver, I know, is supposed to be in the 90s, but it has been mentioned 1 million times. You know what we should do is create a drinking game for all the phrases they're going to use over and over and over again at Castle Pines. What do you think?
Like in terms of like distance,
the elevation, how the ball flies,
longest course in the history of the PGA Tour.
The higher. So did you know this, Spencer? Now that, because we actually were at Patrick Cantlay's press conference yesterday. A lot of people don't realize this, but did you know that proportionally speaking, in Colorado, percentage-wise, your wedges and your short irons go further relative to their sea level distance versus your long irons and your woods?
Yeah, so Patrick talked about that yesterday.
Because the higher you hit it, the further it goes.
Patrick talked about that yesterday, and he said the biggest issue. Are you done with your weather report?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Weather report's all done.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure. The biggest issue with Cantlay was talking about was it's not that necessarily the difference in distance from your clubs at sea level to altitude. It's the difference in distance from club to club because of the gaps that altitude creates. And that's kind of what you're talking about is basically, let's say he hits his pitching wedge 150 yards at sea level. He probably hits it 160-ish, 165 here. Let's say 165 and even 10%. 110% of the distance at sea level.
God, 165 pitching wedge is long.
Well, now he hits his, let's say he hits his 9-iron 165 at sea level. So now that times 160 or times 1.1 essentially is you're looking at 172. So now there's a gap, or excuse me, 182.
Yeah, it's all
so
game
now
of
there's
percentages.
another 1.5 2-yard gap in his pitching wedge and in his 9-iron that wasn't there before.
But I'm saying the multiple changes for the irons and the wedges versus the driver. Like the driver's probably, like you said, a 1.1 multiple. So if you hit it for round number purposes, you hit it 300 at sea level, it's probably going to go 330 up here at altitude. But the multiple for, say, a 9-iron is like 1.2. So say you hit a 9-iron at sea level, probably 150. Then 1.2 of that is going to be 180. So you're gaining more with the short irons and wedges than you are the driver and the long irons in the woods because you're not hitting it as high up in the air. It sounds wild, but it's true. The air is thinner the higher up it gets. So it's actually a very wild concept. But we were standing on the range yesterday watching some guys dial in distances, and Viktor Hovland was hitting 9-iron 190 yards, which is just absolutely bananas. And then Rory, bless you, was flying balls over the net, which, if I remember correctly, when we played out there, you were hitting drivers like into the middle of the net, correct?
Correct, yeah. And if you've never been to Castle Pines Golf Club, the range, it's a great golf course, obviously, but the range is not set up for any sort of PGA Tour event.
No, it's straight uphill.
The range is straight uphill, and it's got the net, I believe, right at the base of the net, or about 10 feet up on the net, it says 250. And maybe at sea level, that's an okay driving range uphill.
Yeah.
Basically stops at 250. Now, a lot of these guys, every single one of them, for instance, actually, not a lot of them, have a TrackMan. So they know exactly how far that ball's going when they hit it based on the numbers and based on their computer. But the amount of guys just pounding balls into that 250 fence was insane.
Yeah.
And you could tell just the difference. It does look cooler, I will say. The uphill driving range, as lame as it is, with a backdrop, makes the ball look like it's just floating. Like watching these guys hit balls was insane. And real quick, kind of to finish up that Patrick Cantlay point, not only is distance a big issue this week, he spoke on trajectory and the trajectory of your shots, where you can almost get it to, obviously you're still going to have to take some off, but let's say you hit a 9-iron that's flying, off the angle of approach, or the angle off of the club is 37 degrees. That's not right, but that's
launch angle?
Yeah, the launch angle.
Okay.
If you flight it down to 34 or 35 degrees, you can almost get that club to go the same distance as sea level. Still going to go a little bit further, but you can control and go back to almost your stock sea level-ish yardages by flighting the ball down a little bit.
Yeah, you definitely, that is the main key to controlling distance, is controlling trajectory. So I feel like the guys, and, my picks are hypothetical betting picks if we were to take them. I picked a couple guys that aren't great at controlling their trajectory and therefore their distance. So I actually, now just talking through this, I don't know how much I love my picks, but maybe that's the perfect reverse psychology scenario for me, where now I hate my picks, so they actually might do well. But yes, controlling trajectory in general on the PGA Tour is massive, especially when you get into that 125 range. And there is certain guys that are better at it than others. I just now off the top of my head, Cameron Young is not great at controlling trajectory. He hits everything high and hard as hell, and he is one of my picks. So I do not know how much I love that. By the way, we'll get into our betting picks towards the end of the episode, but I think it's a blacklist week for Cameron Young. I think you got to know when to quit somebody.
Yeah.
And if Cameron Young can't win this year as many leads as he's held and as many runner-up finishes, this course is somewhat built for a guy like him that just hits it an absolute mile. I know he's not from altitude, so he's not super familiar with playing at altitude, but guys like him and Wyndham, this actually sets up super well for him. First of all, he grew up playing the course. Second of all, he knows how the ball flies at altitude. And third, it's in his hometown. So I think there's definitely some hometown vibes. So,
But hasn't that been like a struggle for PGA Tour players?
yeah, it is a little bit more of a distraction. Like it could go one of two ways depending on the player. Some guys rise up to the occasion. They're like, okay, I need to show out in front of my home crowd. I got all my buddies here. I got my family here. Or they completely get shriveled because they've got 10 dudes or, 50 friends and family pulling them in all these directions, asking them for tickets, asking to get into the players' tent, this and that. And so it could definitely go one of two ways. But ultimately, I think Wyndham knowing this golf course, even though it has been renovated, I think is a huge leg up. Like, think about playing the golf course you legitimately grew up on. That has to be huge for anyone especially at that level. Like when you go to a place you've never played before and can fire, 10 to 15 under in a week, then I think it just gives you those extra few strokes when hey, I know where to hit it here. I know where to hit it here. Where, especially with this venue not being played by literally anybody besides Adam Scott. What was that, 20 years ago?
Fun fact, 2006.
Okay, so
2006 was the last time.
18 years ago.
11
Holy
years ago.
shit, yeah.
2006 was the last
11
time
years old.
a professional event was played at Castle Pines.
I was
and
there.
Adam Scott was in that event. He's the only player that's ever seen Castle Pines. That's why it was interesting making picks, because all the other PGA Tour events, you have the opportunity to look at how guys did last year or 2 years ago or how they've played there. We know one thing, that this week is going to be an adventure for the players. And if you're headed on your next adventure, make sure you're doing that with Rugged Road. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Their products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. We've had Rugged Road coolers at our golf tournament this last Friday, and we've also had them at our tailgate on Sunday. They kept our ice and our water extremely cold. And they're super light, super durable. I could carry 2 Rugged Road coolers at once, stacked on top of each other. Great set of handles on them, if you know what I mean. But also super light to carry. These other coolers that are super heavy and you can't hold near as many things, Rugged Road is not like that. They're also floatable. So one of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. So if you're hanging out on the water, Rugged Road coolers are the ones for you. Gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code ALLCITY for 10% off. All right, so BMW Championship, we've got obviously the pairings, 50 players. Let's go through some of our favorite pairings. And then I also want to talk to you about, we did this last week, and I think it kind of plays again this week, the guys looking on the outside in, 31 through 50, who we think could make a run, or who do you think is set up well for, winning? Because last year, let's face it, last year in this, I don't remember exactly how he played in the St. Jude, but remember at this point, Viktor Hovland was kind of He was having a good season, but not as bad as the season he's having this year, but he was kind of middling. And then he went on and won the BMW and then turned around and won the Tour Championship. So are we going to see a repeat of that? A guy goes back-to-back. Are we going to see Hideki go back-to-back? He's got his caddy back. But let's talk about some pairings. First of all, first one I wanted to get to was Patrick Cantlay and Sun JM. Kind of an interesting pairing. Cantlay, I'm high on Cantlay this week. We got to hear him talk yesterday. And I will say, not as vanilla Elmer's glue in an interview than he looks on the golf course. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, totally. His interview is actually somewhat intriguing. The worst part of it was this guy from the Associated Press.
Is that who it was? I went to go
I
look
looked at his placard.
Okay.
And
Doug.
Doug from the Associated Press was the most annoying dude in the media I've ever heard. He legitimately, have you been to a press conference before for like the Rapids or anything?
Yes.
Okay, so this dude, you get the mic, you ask a question, you hand the mic back. He held onto the mic for over 5 minutes twice. He asked like 3 or 4 consecutive questions, was like having a conversation with Patrick, and then hands the mic back, and then they're about to shut down questions. Patrick's like, thank God, I'm about to get out of here. Doug asked for the mic again and asked another and it's the most they're asking him questions about Castle Pines, and Doug goes, did you grow up watching golf on TV?
Yeah, that's exactly one of the questions.
Or no, it was even better. He goes, did you grow up watching TV? And Cantlay's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I meant golf. And then he was asking these open-ended, like he was almost trying to like pull a quote out of Cantlay that wasn't there. He's like, did you watch TV? And then Cantlay's like looking around. And I feel like he's almost trying to make him look like an asshole. Because then he goes, well, like golf on TV. And he's like, oh, well, yeah. And then he goes, what was your favorite? And he goes, well, I grew up going out to Riviera. He's like, I meant to watch on TV. And then Cantlay's like, well, yeah, the Masters. And then, did you have a favorite player? It's like, dude, holy shit, let the guy, if you want to go buy this guy dinner and fucking sit down with him, go for it. But this is not your personal conversation.
Did you see he grabbed him after the interview?
Oh,
Cantlay was trying to walk up.
Oh my God!
The center,
saw him
and we were leaving,
there.
and then he goes and grabs him again. And I don't know what was said there. I kind of tried to listen in, but couldn't hear it.
I'm sure players see guys like that, and they just, when you working at our old golf course, you'd see a member, and you're like, nope, can't get involved right now. Like you walk away, you hide, you do whatever you need to do to avoid talking to them. I feel like players got to have some of that with people, because this dude is probably at every single golf tournament. And he's asked everybody so many questions that he's at the point where he's asking guys if they watched TV growing up. Like, what the fuck? And then there's another lady that she was in the front row, but she was trying to ask Patrick a question without the microphone. Did you realize that?
Yeah.
And then he answered, she finally asked it with the microphone. He answered, and she had something to say back. She didn't hold the microphone up so nobody could hear what she was replying with. So it was just the press conference in general. I mean, Cantlay handled it well. And then somebody else asked him, do you grade yourself? Like all these open-ended questions. It was
do you grade yourself? It was more like something you do in private when the wife is gone.
Yeah, right? Like I did not know what the hell they meant by that. And then I think it was the same dude. What was his name? Doug. He goes, how do you learn from your mistakes? Like, what does that process look like? That was a legitimate question he asked. And he's like, when do you learn from them? Like, if I'm, say, hitting it left all day, when do you learn that you need to not hit it left? Like, this is a PGA Tour press conference? Do you think this is fucking...
Yeah, and then at one point he asked, do you ever go back? Like, do you ever go back and look at... And Patrick's like, yeah, like obviously I look at how I did. And
it ultimately felt like this guy was baiting him into like being an asshole and getting worked up about something. And Patrick like kept it together, but you could see there was a few times where he like rolled his eyes and was like, he looked around like, is everybody else here in this shit?
Yeah, well, they did get a semi-funny clip out of it because the PGA Tour tweeted the clip where he was grilling him about watching tournaments as a kid. And he was talking about watching the Ryder Cup with his dad, but his dad had it on tape delay. So his dad told him, like, I bet the U.S. is going to lose all these matches, whatever. And then he watches it and they lose all the matches, and then found out later that his dad already knew what happened because he was watching it on tape delay. So it got a semi-funny quote, but yeah, you could tell everybody in the media center was like, this guy's just mic hogging it. And no one else wanted to ask any questions.
Well, there was like 4 dudes that asked probably 30 questions between that. And it's like, I think, and maybe they know that nobody else is going to ask questions, so they are almost kind of giving, material for the press conferences. They're trying to like start a conversation, but it just felt so weird and like uncomfortable. I did not enjoy it at all.
No, we're not big J's for sure.
Yeah.
Real quick with that Ryder Cup thing, I lost $80 like that one time. They played me, and I was like, yeah, like my grandpa when I was younger, he's like,
Oh my
let's bet on
God.
this thing, man.
And they knew
I'm
the outcome.
He already knew the outcome, and I lost $80. He gave it back after he admitted
Oh,
to it.
that's
okay.
nice. I was gonna say I'd still be salty about that. Like, you're getting hosed on that. Real quick, how'd you rate the? We get a breakfast and lunch every day.
Yeah,
we
we
should have
get
drove down there just for lunch. Like, there's nobody playing golf right now because all the pro-am's over. I mean, 2:00 is lunch is over. We could make it after the pod.
Yeah, so the lunch spread was incredible. Like they had full hot side and a cold side. The cold side had chicken salad, croissant.
I copped.
There
for
was
sure.
like a chicken breast, but it was like 4 chicken breasts on one sandwich, or like almost chicken cutlets essentially. And then the hot side, they had salmon burgers. They had regular burgers, which were absolutely, except they didn't have ketchup. They gave you, like, they had the burgers, and then they're going over the top here, but instead of giving you like condiments, like a little plastic thing, they gave you glass bottles of, they had Dijon mustard and regular mustard. Those are the only 2 glass bottles they had. They had no ketchup. Maybe we were late on the ketchup, but I feel like if you're going to give someone burgers, you got to have ketchup with that. Yeah, 100%. It's just like crazy.
Yeah.
But overall, I gave the food like a 9. The cookie was phenomenal.
Cookie was gas.
The chicken salad was awesome. I didn't go into the actual salads. I was more concerned with the burger and the chicken salad
you
sandwich.
know, like the chip mix, they had like chips out. It was like a mixture of like sun chips and like regular chips. It was fire.
I
Like,
didn't see that.
Yeah,
I missed that.
I just had like a chicken salad sandwich and some chips and a cookie. And I think we were the only people to bust our own plates in the media center. So we probably looked like idiots, but I think we were just trying to help the people out. So
Yeah, just trying to do it, just be low key.
Yeah.
Because we're apparently not always low key at this place. Real quick, I want to get into 2 more pairings. Just
Okay.
the interesting ones in my mind. Obviously, you've got Schauffele and Scheffler together, friends, going against each other, 1-2 in the FedEx Cup right now. But this one I found interesting as well. You have
love the fact that it's twosomes, by the way.
yeah, twosomes make it super easy. Oh, where did that pairing go? Rory's playing with Wyndham. So they're giving Wyndham, Rory McIlroy, who hasn't played here, but has a chance to obviously win any of these single events. And Wyndham is the focal point of this week, which that's why I thought it was crazy. We walked down the stairs right behind him, and he was just hanging out.
Yeah.
And he didn't have anybody with him. No caddy, no, team, essentially. He was just walking around.
Well,
And-
yeah, it's his home club.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying,
Probably
like,
pulls up to the valet and like knows everybody by name and shit.
it was cool to see, since it's the BMW Championship, obviously, every single courtesy car was white BMW X5.
Yeah.
Every single one. And they all
Or
had their own
gray, yeah,
designated
there's a-
parking spots. But Rory and Wyndham should be an electric pairing.
Yeah, there's going to be some very long drives coming out of that group. Before we get to our betting picks,
Which we are not betting on.
we are not
this
betting.
week.
This is just picks that we like. We are not betting them. But what are your favorite holes? So we played out here a little over a month ago. What holes will you be like watching a little bit more closely? Because I feel like there's a few out there that are more compelling than others.
Well, you're going to have to help me with numbers here.
Okay.
Because
We started on 9.
We
or
started
10.
on 10.
Yes.
So what's the long par 5? Like
On
13,
the back nine?
14,
13.
13. Okay, so that one, not that hole, which that's the one I 3-putted for par, correct?
I'm sorry,
From back of the green?
14.
14? Okay,
Yes.
so the next hole, 15. Incredible golf hole. We didn't know what to do that well. I mean, we had our caddy, RIP, but we had...
R.I.P. Danny boy.
We had our caddy on that hole, and we all hit less than driver, but... I didn't see when we played there.
On the par 5?
No, on the next hole after the par 5. So 16, 15. I don't know.
Yes, 15. Because then it went 5, 4, 3, 5, 4.
Okay, so yeah, so 15 is theoretically drivable
That dogleg, right?
if you cut enough off, but
Well, from the tees we played it at.
yeah, but
They were playing
they
like
were playing
100
another 100 yards
yards
back, but still they also hit it probably 50 to 100 yards further than us. The thing is I don't know on the whole right side there's water
And
but there's
trees.
also trees and there's also going to be probably grandstands.
Remember,
so that probably
you
changes.
Didn't you hit it into the grandstand area, or did I?
No, that was on the par 5 where I was close to them, but I was
Okay.
still putting. I didn't hit it into them.
Okay.
But I was that, yeah. So 15 is going to be a fun hole to watch because guys can take off a lot. But we did have some inside info today from one of our friends working. He was on 15 and saw Ludwig Aubert hole out for eagle from 150 yards. So
wow.
that tells me that they're playing that way back because, we played
150.
tees up, but I hit hybrid and had like 110, 120 in.
But also, I bet they're hitting less than driver there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They're laying it back.
they're playing to the fat part of the fairway because I tried to hit 3-wood to work it into the neck of the fairway. It's a dogleg right, and I hit it in the trees right and ended up making bogey, which was just fucking stupid. Do you know what I realized? So I shot, I think, 3 over par there. I played and towards the end of the round, I think I bogeyed the last 3 holes. But between 18 and 9, I was 3 over on those 2 holes. So our 9th hole and our 18th hole, I was 3 over. Fucking stupid.
Well, and just the craziness yesterday's looking at number 9. Is it number 9 that we were standing next to or 18? Because now
9.
we started on 10. So it was our
18 was the one with all the grandstands that Matt Fitzpatrick was on.
That's the hole so 18 is there's a ton of room right before the grandstands. With the grandstands, no joke, there's 10 feet of rough.
Yeah.
There was roughly 75 to 100 feet of rough.
That's why I
Then
made
there
double
was-
on 18.
Then there was, fescue past that.
Yeah.
That is all covered with grandstands. So no joke, if you miss the fairway by 5 to 10 yards, you're hitting the grandstands.
Yeah. Well, the people sitting there need to keep their heads on a swivel, but
Yeah, that's going to be one of those drunk club scenes where there's a bunch of people having a good time and then there's going to be
Somebody
multiple
get
balls
dropped.
up in that
Oh,
grandstand.
100%. But even just to give you an idea, so 17, the par 5, the uphill par 5. Do you recall?
Yes. Yeah, I mashed driver and had 125.
Yeah, I had like 205 in, whatever. But you remember that bunker on the right side? So we played it so far up that you had to thread the needle. We both hit it past that bunker. They're playing it so far back that I watched Rory hit that tee shot. He was aiming directly at that bunker. So that means they're a good 80, 90. Well, they're behind that pond that we teed off next to. They're at the back of that pond. So, I mean, everything is obviously stretched out. They're at 8,100 yards. So everything is going to be long. But I almost think, this sounds crazy, but I almost think it makes it somewhat easier for those guys because I've always, even being a shorter hitter, I have done better on the same course. If you put me at the blue tees versus the black tees, I almost tend to do better from the black tees in a roundabout way because I can hit driver everywhere. If you're hitting, an iron off the tee on the blue tees, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, So being able to let it fly off of the black tees, there's going to be a lot of spots where those guys can hit driver into the fat part of the fairway with driver as opposed to laying back with a 3-wood or a 4-iron, something like that. So
Well, and I kind of have the same sentiment where driver for me, the further back I go, the more room I generally have. Whereas if I'm hitting driver on a shorter course, I'm getting up near the green, in a much thinner fairway area, more rough, more potentially water that's, 100 yards short of the green, whatever. So it does make it a little bit easier the further you go back. But then the approach shots are obviously longer and harder if you don't hit driver well.
yeah, everybody was saying that the front 9 is significantly easier than the back 9. Do you agree with that?
Dude, I just think we played it from so far up that I don't even think what we did is relevant.
Yeah.
I think the tee box and the golf course we played, especially since the greens weren't near as fast as they're going to be, I think it's semi-irrelevant. I think the thing we got the most of that they're going to get obviously par 3s and some approach shots.
Yeah.
Is really what we can take from our round. So do you want to get into our picks?
Yeah, let's pick 'em.
talk about our picks for this week. Once again, we are not betting these. We are not betting any of these picks. These picks have the odds from Bet365, but we are not betting any of these. We're just giving them out. So we've got Patrick Cantlay. I have Patrick Cantlay plus 1,000 on the each way 1 through 12, and that is boosted 30%. Just feel good about him this week. He's won the BMW Championship twice. He talked about it yesterday that it is fun that it moves around, so he's been able to win it at 2 different places, and maybe this week is a third. I've also got Billy Horschel. He's just been playing really good golf, and I have really good vibes off Billy Horschel watching him watch Aaron Rai win that tournament and how much he was cheering on a guy that hasn't won a PGA Tour event
I do
yet.
like him more now after that.
Yeah, I'm a big Billy Horschel fan now, so I'm going to go with him at plus 2,000. And then Nick Dunlap. So Nick Dunlap is one of the lowest odds in the entire field. Obviously, kind of barely squeezed into the top 50, even though he's won twice on tour. Of course, won one of those as an AM. Did something that no one since Jack Nicklaus has done this year. But where I'm going on this is, like I talked about earlier, we don't have any course knowledge.
Yeah.
But this guy played 1 million holes last year at the USAM, winning it at Cherry Hills, 12 miles up the road from Castle Pines. He's played in elevation, played a ton of holes at elevation, kind of has the feel, these courses are definitely different, but have some of the same feel, the same grass, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going strictly off of Nick Dunlap winning the USAM in Colorado, having a comfortable feel in this state that he's won at, and winning a PGA Tour event's much harder than winning a USAM, obviously, but winning a USAM, you're playing so many holes, match play. It's a grind. It's a lot of golf. So I'm going to take Nick Dunlap using some of his experience from being here last summer.
Okay, very good. I like that. So I am rolling with a heavy favorite, Xander Schauffele. I think that after last week, making a charge on Sunday, not getting the win, I definitely think this is a golf course he can succeed on. His iron play is on point. And that is what's going to be needed ultimately, because driving the ball is, I would say, Castle Pines is a relatively easy driving course. A lot of wider fairways, not super narrow, not super tree lined. They're not going to get in a lot of trouble off the tee, I would say. So it's going to be more of a second shot type of golf course, which I see Xander succeeding on. So plus 450, not great odds there, but it's there for a reason, because I think that he's more than capable, and I actually think you can boost a win only up to like plus 700.
Correct. Yep.
So plus 700 if you're taking win only. I like that. And then you have Wyndham Clark plus 1,600. Like I said, once again, it's his home course. He hits it a mile. He knows where to hit it here. Just good vibes. I'm going off vibes here. I think he will do well in his home state. And then Cam Young plus 2,200. I kind of talked my way out of that pick earlier, but I still think with his length, he has a distinct advantage relative to a lot of other guys in this field. He's going to be hitting, probably mid irons into some of these par fives. Not mid irons, probably long irons, but he will definitely be able to get to every single one of these 5s and 2. Which is obviously a huge advantage. So if he can keep his head on straight, I like him to do well this week.
Love it. So we got Cantlay, Horschel, Dunlap, Schauffele, Clark, and Young. That's about to wrap it up for us this week. Do you want to do a quick fairway or Fore, or do you want to talk about Country Club Snob real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do that.
Country Club Snob basically got canceled by one of his assistant pros. And I just want to get your general... So the assistant pro kind of didn't directly out him, but apparently this dude, Country Club Snob, was talking shit about, somebody on Twitter. The guy on Twitter reached out to this assistant pro. They found his LinkedIn, basically. So you got to cover all your tracks when it goes back to LinkedIn. The weirdest part was he said he was a black man, and like how he was and he was white as hell. Like, that's pretty weird saying you're a different race than you are. But he's a member at Holston Hills in Knoxville, Tennessee, I want to say. Looks like a pretty nice track. It's definitely not an elite, not one of the, 100,000 plus initiation fee, very exclusive clubs by any means. So it was just funny because he was so divisive on social media. I personally thought a lot of his shit was funny, and a lot of even people that are members at the mid clubs that he talked about with the tattooed bev cart girls and the the guys in flip flops after their round, shit like that. I thought it was pretty funny. You're a member at what some would be considered a mid club. Obviously, I love Inverness, but it's not super exclusive. And so then you being a part of that now, you can kind of. Did you find his shit funny? Like,
I did find it funny, but now, so long story short, Country Club Snob was a guy that created this Twitter account and was talking shit about a lot of members that did certain things
from a unanimous
anonymous source.
Unanimous, anonymous, same shit.
The way he talked made it seem like he was a member at Augusta National, essentially, which when he was outed and found out where his country club was, a lot of people thought his takes were misguided, but also some people saw through it in the original things where if they're seeing all the things that he's seeing and tweeting about, then he's clearly a member at a course that's not that high up. So if you took it for satire, which it mostly was, then you're not that offended by what he posted and you're like, whatever, it's funny, it's just meant to be funny.
Yes.
But if you're a member at one of those clubs or you're a high level member at a club and you actually care about this guy on Twitter, which if you're a high enough level member at a club, you don't. But if you're a high enough member that you care what this guy says, then you're kind of like, wow, who are you to talk, essentially, is what happened.
Oh, 1,000%. And a lot of the responses were like, when they found out he was a member at this club in Knoxville, people were like, yeah, this club's mid as shit. He was saying stuff that was so specific. You knew he was coming from a place of self-owning but that was kind of the other side of it, was like, he was a mid course. And so he almost, but I guess, I don't know. Everybody said he was punching down at people who aren't members at as nice a clubs as him, blah, blah, blah. But I think in an ironic way, he was actually like punching exactly across, because I think he was kind of shit talking himself a little bit. I will say though, he did provide some like insight into, just general life stuff. And so this assistant pro that outed him has been getting a shitload of hate on social media, calling him soft, saying he's never going to get a job again. So if this was you, would you have done the same thing, or you keep your mouth shut and you carry on?
I would have tried to use it to my advantage at first. Tried to figure out maybe
like a blackmail thing.
Not blackmail, but been like, hey, like I know who you are.
That's blackmail.
Well, yeah, maybe it is blackmail.
That is literal.
I don't know.
Literally a grade A case of blackmail.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's just the internet is satire a lot of the time. So I think taking it over the top and being too serious about who he is shouldn't really matter that much. But people did get offended because a lot of the things that it's kind of like we're kind of like a mirror of him in a way, where a lot of the things we portray as a joke on our videos are people do those things, but then those are the people that get mad.
Yes.
So when he'd say, oh, when you go to another club and then you buy a head cover and you're playing with that head cover on, and that's stupid.
Playing head cover roulette with a bunch of places you're not a member at.
Correct. Like that pissed people off.
But if the shoe, it's kind of a whole if the shoe fits type thing. You only got offended if you felt like it was pointed directly at you, but you were essentially pointing it at you.
Yes.
Like, because
you felt offended.
Yes.
Because it felt like your thing.
It hurts because it's true.
Exactly.
It's exactly
that's what had people upset. But I thought it was hilarious. I personally didn't mind Country Club Snob at all, but I can see I can't see it, but I get it. People get upset about it. So
yeah.
Quick fairway or Fore. You drove us down to Castle Pines yesterday. You literally rode in the far right lane of the highway the entire time. Like, we were going probably 45 and a 65.
This is inaccurate information.
No, it's actually not. You did get over one lane into like the third from right or the third from left lane, but you were going significantly under the speed limit with zero sense of urgency. Is riding in the right lane crazy? Because
sometimes
when you're going a significant distance, like if you're not ready to get off, we had like a good 15 miles and you're just sitting there going 20 under.
Some of the times I honestly was looking ahead and I could see a truck in the second to right lane, or a massive, like that one digger that was being pulled. I was like trying to get away from that.
That's what you get caught by when you're in the right lane.
Well, people in the right lane were going a little faster than that guy in the second from right lane. So I did have a method to some of my madness, but I also don't always drive like I'm in a hurry. I don't need to be in a hurry most of the time. When I am in a hurry, I drive like it. So yes, maybe it's crazy, but that's just how I drive. And Mitchell texted me, and so it popped up on my CarPlay, and I was like, "What did you say?" And it just get out of the right lane.
You were doing Spencer's doing voice to text while driving, and I'm like, should I voice to text you? And then I just texted him and I said, get out of the right lane. So
yeah, well, Mitchell has a lot of comments on my driving, but I was actually happy he didn't voice them. It was nice.
It took a lot of self-control. I'm growing as a person. I just sat there and stared at the back of a fucking dump truck in the far right lane going 10 under the speed limit.
All right, my Fairway Fore. Are normal fans and like vent fans above stoves too loud? Because I honestly, they make me go crazy. Like last night, we brought the fan up because our upstairs was hot. We brought this big fan up and we're trying to watch a show. And I was like, I can't focus.
Yeah.
And like when we turn, like, I hate turning the vent fan on. My kitchen could be so smoky that I can barely see, but I loathe turning that vent fan on because that noise just makes me feel like I'm going crazy. It feels like it's like I can't think.
100%. It's like the old turn down the music so I can see what street I'm turning on. Like it shouldn't affect your ability to think, but it does. Like I am the exact same way. It heightens it's like sensory overload. It heightens your senses. So you're hearing that, you're trying to cook, you're hot as fuck. Like, dude, your kitchen, you need to do something about that because it is whenever you cook in there, you just sweat your ass off. So it's not, obviously, you know, the oven's hot, the stove's hot, so there's nothing you can do there, but holy shit, every time I cook in there, I am just steaming. It is not a good time.
No, my kitchen is a mess. So thank you guys all for tuning in. BMW Championship preview. Once again, check our social media later on today, Wednesday. We have a great giveaway that goes through Saturday night, so you can comment through Saturday night. We've got some awesome stuff to give away from the BMW Championship. Make sure you're following along. I am at Big Drive Spence. He is at Big Drive Mitch. Big Drive Energy on both TikTok and X, and Big Drive Energy Pod on Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Throw a thumbs up on this if you're watching it. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys on Sunday afternoon as we're crowning a BMW champion, and we are going to East Lake, headed to the Tour Championship, where the FedEx Cup will be on the line. We'll talk to you guys on Sunday. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.